Hi, and welcome to Aviation Careers Podcast. My name is Carl Valeri, and during our last group coaching mentorship session, I did a mid-year update as far as, what the hiring environment is and also what it's going to be for the rest of the year. And that's in 2025. I wanted to share some of that information with you folks outside of that mentorship program, which, by the way, if you want to check out some of those recordings and some of those sessions, you can watch it for free for 1 month. Go to aviationcareerspodcast.com/mentorship. Use a coupon code COACHITFORWARD. But first of all, let's talk about the state of hiring in 2025. And I think that's something that a lot of people have some misinformation, a little bit of confusion, etc. But I want to kind of straighten that out, also give you a path forward so that you can actually plan your career. So anyway, let's get started. First of all, the overall portion of the economy right now and the overall outlook, a lot of it's been driven by a predisposition of hiring in our minds, right? And because of the fact that after the pandemic, we had this really resurgence of travel, right? But now that's starting to moderate for many reasons. Of course, we're looking at the economy, trade wars, Pratt & Whitney issue with the Neo engines, although those are getting a little bit better. You're also looking at some issues with some of the delivery issues with Boeing. So we've had those, and I talk a lot about that in our group coaching. So it's something I really highly recommend going and take a look at. But let's talk a little bit about what's happening with the hiring this year. So there are some regionals that are still facing some challenges, right? As they still, amazingly enough, have problems attracting pilots. And it sounds a little bit odd, but let's figure out why. And one of the reasons is that it could be unattractive to the person getting hired. There's been a shift in the past 10 or 20 years where the people that are actually looking for jobs are looking for a better lifestyle also, and they're looking for specific things. So they're not necessarily taking any flying job that they get, which was what it was like in the past. Like when I got started, if you got a flying job, you took it, right? But now they want to go to places where they find the planes attractive that they want to fly. They may not want to fly a smaller 50-seat jet, maybe a 70-seat jet. They don't want to fly a turboprop. They want to fly a jet, that type of thing. So that's another reason that regionals, amazingly enough, even in this environment, are having a tough time attracting certain pilots, and certain regionals especially. And that leads into the contracts. Some regionals are actually asking pilots to sign contracts that can be very restrictive on their future. It's like in the old days when we used to make the pilots that were hired at the airlines actually pay for their training. And so those went away. But that's actually kind of happening a little bit now, where they're keeping you on the hook for some of the monies that possibly that you've used during that training. And those contracts are different everywhere. That is a personal decision that you have to make as far as whether you want to sign that contract. Remember this, nobody can ever predict the future. But one thing we can do is we can act on our situation and make our futures better by doing what? By preparing ourselves. Another thing that's actually been weighing on a lot of people as far as hiring is concerned, because we're seeing a lot of people change jobs, career changers, etc., and just people in general, they don't want to go somewhere that they don't want to fly. They want to go somewhere they want to fly. They don't want to go to a base that's halfway across the country. They want to stay where they are, close to home and close to family. And I can understand that. So that's another thing that's actually hindering some airlines, some regionals, in attracting pilots, is those pilot bases. Also, the major airlines they're reporting a more balanced approach as far as hiring, a little bit more moderating. Of course, I'm in the summer here, mid-year update. A lot of airlines have challenges hiring during the summer. You'll see some of those have already announced that they're going to keep hiring throughout the year. Remember this too, that the airlines actually hire for the future, for future demand, right? So they have to do their predictions, and if their predictions are wrong and they overhire, then that actually gets to be a challenging situation. It's kind of like what we're seeing now. I think what had happened is that people were very confident in the new landscape here in the U.S. as far as politically, but some of the tariffs, et cetera, that were put in place actually kind of hurt the economy, but more so hurt some of the travel and the travel industry. So we're seeing some of those ramifications we didn't really expect to be as large as they are now. So let's talk about what we can do. Let's not look at the economy. We're always going to have ups and downs throughout your career. Remember, you're looking at a 30, 40-year career. Even if you're a career changer late in life, and we know that 65 is retirement age for the airlines, there's other jobs outside the airlines. So let's talk about what's happening now and how to make yourself more competitive in this environment. So really, there's this new demand, right, for pilots that actually came about after the pandemic. So now what's happened? We have all these new academies, and we have new gateway programs, cadet programs, things like that have popped up so that we can have this pipeline of pilots in place, because we know at the airlines that someday we're going to need those pilots. It's just like airplanes. Look at airplanes. We need to actually purchase airplanes for the next 10 years and predict how many airplanes we need to use in those next 10 years and the markets. And we also have to predict how many people we need to hire. So that's why you've seen a lot more specialized training. So you'll see like a growth in this ATP, CTP programs. Many of the schools are starting to consolidate. Is this a good or bad thing? I think it can be good if the consolidation is done properly. You're seeing the bigger schools have many more facilities and great simulators, a larger fleet. That actually reduces the risks of having airplanes go down for maintenance, that type of thing. So that's one of the things that we're seeing in this competitive landscape, is that the growth of these bigger schools, you have to do your research when you're looking at some of those bigger schools. We talk about 141, et cetera, or Part 61. Doesn't matter if it's an accelerated program. Make sure it's one that has a high success rate and also that fits you. Not all programs are good for you as an individual. That's the reason I always stress, go out there, get yourself a career coach, etc. Obviously, you can find more at aviationcareerspodcast.com/coaching, both for our individual one-on-one and also our group coaching. But the other thing we need to shift to is this. Digital platforms, online communities, they have become almost essential for the networking, right, and finding opportunities. I'm a big believer in pressing the flesh, right, getting out there, talking to people, going to air shows, but also you have to augment that with the online communities, things like LinkedIn, that type of thing, which, by the way, we're going to be doing another LinkedIn update and a class on our group coaching where we talk about what's the best practice for LinkedIn and what we need to do to develop our LinkedIn profile, because there's some things in there that I think a lot of people don't realize. It's the same thing as a resume, right? And how to use LinkedIn properly. And, a lot of people talk about ghosting and things like that. That goes both ways. I mean, recruiters don't hear back from people that are applying, and we don't hear back from the recruiters. Remember this, in an environment where there's a lot of people applying, you may not hear back right away. So just remember that that's really important, because another thing that's really happened too is that this industry has shifted more to this data-driven, kind of hiring process and recruitment process. So we're filtering out people even based on their profiles on LinkedIn and their backgrounds, et cetera. Notice all the online application programs that are out there. It can be somewhat unfortunate because there can be some great applicants that don't look great on paper. But the one good thing is that we can filter out, what we want. So for instance, if we get 5,000 applicants and we want people we need to get, filter out half of those. We might say, okay, we'll filter out the people that don't have a 4-year degree. We'll filter out people that don't have the ATP. So that's really important. Which brings us to the next point. There's certain skills and qualifications that are really essential. A real big one is technical proficiency, understanding the regulations, understanding all the different safety protocols are incredibly important. And this is where you need to know your regs. You need to know how to use charts. You need to know how to read charts. We do a lot of that through the pilot interview course, actually, and that's part of our group mentorship program. But one of the things we need to do is actually make sure that we are much more knowledgeable than the person next to us. Because education isn't just about going to school. It's about you learning whatever it is that you need to learn for your job. For instance, regulations, understanding systems, understanding the actual environment that we operate in, understanding all those different scenarios. And that's the education I want you to look towards. Become proficient. That is paramount. Also, really one of the biggest things is resilience during this, is in making sure that you see it through. Navigating this industry has become a little bit tougher now. The days are of just getting hired based on the fact that you put in an application. Those are pretty much over for now. That could happen again. But we've had that happen in 2000, 2001. I mean, if you could fog a mirror, you could get hired. Now you got to work on a couple things: proficiency and qualification. So make sure you do that. Make sure you work on those things. And I know that out there, there's a lot of challenges right now. A lot of you are talking about some of the challenges. Well, so how do we overcome some of those challenges in this hiring environment? A part of the challenge is this predisposition to the fact that the old fact that we could get hired if we just showed up, and that they need to recruit to us. I remember being in a meeting where the people on the board were younger folks, basically telling the employers, what they felt as far as the hiring practices were, and how they could better recruit for those people. Now the tables have turned. There's more applicants than there are jobs. So right now, that means that you have to overcome a certain challenges, and one of them is changing your paradigm, and changing that paradigm in your brain, how you think, and the fact that we have actually come into a new hiring environment. Who Moved My Cheese? That's a great book. You should check it out. It's actually in our reading list. If you go down the right side of the screen at aviationcareerspodcast.com, you'll see it there under recommended reading. Who Moved My Cheese? It just talks about, hey, listen, I actually have been going down this path and been thinking in a certain manner. Things have changed, and now I need to go down this other path. And that's really important that we do that throughout our careers, not just now. But to overcome some of these challenges, what I want you to do is make sure you network and build true relationships, okay? That's really important in trying to secure a pilot job, especially during like these industry events, recruiting events, even some of these online events. But there's nothing like you actually being front of their mind and actually being that person that they're going to look towards when they think about, hey, who's that person again that we met at that air show? Oh, yeah, Jim. Let's give Jim a call because he seemed really passionate about our company. So make sure you do that. Make sure you get out there and attend as many events as possible. I talk about air shows, job fairs at air shows. Remember, pilots, they like to hang out at air shows. So make sure you go out there and check those out. And then also make sure you stay updated on all the technology and advancements in aviation. I think there's some people that have never seen glass cockpit. Get out there and go in a simulator, fly glass cockpit. Understand certain things like CPDLC. What is that? How do I learn more about that? Get online. There's lots of great YouTube videos out there to learn those type of things. But make yourself more competitive by understanding all these things. And then go out there and start thinking about diversifying your skill set. Think about getting your instrument rating. You probably have that, hopefully. But also maybe getting your seaplane rating, maybe your sailplane, go out there and get a glider rating. So make sure you expand there, but also expand it on an educational basis. Maybe start looking at the expansion as far as a degree. Maybe go into management. Maybe have that skill, have that degree that enables you to get hired with a company who's thinking about maybe someday this person will go into management. I think that's really, really important to do that. Anyway, as far as that's concerned, those are the things I want you to do is overcome those challenges. Networking helps. And be careful, though, because there's a lot of really bad news out there. And people are like, well, nobody's hiring it. Well, our clients are getting hired. Maybe you're just looking in the wrong place, or maybe you don't have the right qualifications, or maybe we just need to tweak something in the way that you're doing this. But people are getting hired. It's just more competitive. So, for instance, before you had 250 hours, you had your commercial license, you could get hired with a regional. Now you need to have your ATP in certain places. You need to have, or at least your CTP, ATP done, or you need to have 1,500 hours minimum. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at now. Things have changed, right? So what's the future of the pilot jobs out there? So we've seen this steady growth in the industry as a whole worldwide in the growth of pilot hiring. So there's going to be about 18,000 or so commercial pilots and projected in the next couple of years, hiring every year 18 to 18,500 over the next 10 years. So every year 18,000 people being hired. So a lot of those openings, to understand why, is not just growth at the airline, but also the fact that people are aging out, they're retiring, and people don't work forever. And also there's this mandatory retirement age of 65. So those are the kind of things you're going to have to think about moving forward is, gosh, some of those openings are becoming about because of retirements. And if you look at some of the data online, you can see a lot of those retirements happening. So a lot of those jobs are coming out. There's some great stuff out there in Bureau of Labor Statistics that talks about those jobs. Take a look at those things. So make sure you actually are looking at the data that's online. BLS, I like to use that a lot, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the Bureau of Transportation Statistics is good too. But looking at that data, I understand a lot of people are like, well, I mean, this is like past news, but it also is very conservative, their numbers, because many times when I talk about new jobs and pay, they're saying those job numbers are low, those pay numbers are low, and that's the reason, because things are moving so quickly, and the increase in the pay, it's really increasing throughout the industry. Keeping up with inflation, yes, some industries are not, but also when you're looking at this and you're looking at the technologies, remember that our job as pilots has kind of transformed over the years. We don't have a navigator and an engineer. We have a pilot and a co-pilot or first officer. Those things have changed, but also there's a lot more automation that's being put into place. This glass cockpit has become more and more complex. There's more and more automation of systems and how those systems interact with each other that you really need to know. And I know everybody talks about artificial intelligence. I have another episode coming up, when the artificial fails in the artificial intelligence scenario, what do we need to do? So you need to have that strong foundation in understanding systems, more complex systems, and ones that are automated and talk to each other. You got to understand a little bit more about computers. Also, not just technology, but you really have to understand leadership. You are being hired as a captain, so you need to have a little bit stronger leadership skills than some other folks, because you're going to be the person that's in that left seat, and they're going to ask you questions, and you're going to go through a lot of scenarios. Like, Captain, what do we need to do? Captain, what do we need to do here? How much fuel do we want? Making all those types of decisions, and that's what really we're looking at. So be prepared for that. But most importantly, don't let these short-term market fluctuations really discourage you. A year or 2 year slowdown over a 40-year career is really not much. Remember, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Keep moving towards your career goal. It's, like people that want to become a dentist or get a degree in a college, they don't quit because hiring has actually decreased while they're in college. They're still going to actually finish their degree and finish whatever it is they're doing, unless that job's going away. But for the most part, that doesn't really happen. We're still going to need pilots. We're still going to need mechanics. We're still going to need engineers. All these things are still out there. And make sure that you get involved in a group where people are very positive, like we do with the group coaching. I mean, we have that mentorship program for a reason. I mean, it's only $20 a month. I mean, you get the first month free using that coupon code Coach It Forward. And you can find out more at aviationcareerspodcast.com/mentorship. Also, as far as the moving forward with degrees and things like that, we have a sponsor of this podcast, Stratus Financial, who actually is giving away free scholarships, guys, so that can help pay for those. As a matter of fact, let's actually talk a little bit about that, the Stratus Financial. Visit our sponsor, Stratus Financial, where dreams take flight. Stratus Financial offers loans for pilot training, and they understand your needs because they're pilots. You can find out more at stratus.finance. Whether you're financing your dream of flying or simplifying the process by taking care of your student loans, their efficient, hassle-free funding can connect you to the life of your dreams of becoming a professional pilot sooner than you ever thought possible. Visit them at stratus.finance. As a sponsor of this podcast, Stratus Financial is giving away scholarships guides, and you can get yours for free by using the coupon code STRATUS. Visit aviationcareerspodcast.com/free and use that coupon code STRATUS. Again, and please visit our sponsor, stratus.finance. And as you can see, Stratus Financial does a lot for people in the industry, but also loves to give away these different scholarships guides. But most importantly, get involved, get prepared. And in this hiring environment, 2025, our mid-year update, things have gotten tougher. Yes, some airlines have gone out of business. There are people moving, shifting jobs. It's gotten more competitive because of some of those airlines going out of business, but there are some airlines that are having some struggles finding qualified people. Just make sure that you continue to network and increase your qualifications. But the most important thing you can do for me is every single day, try to do something. Take one step every day to move forward in your career. It could be something as simple as looking up what the requirements are for air traffic control, if that's what you want to do. What I need to do to get my CTP, ATP, where the jobs are, the news. Go look at the news in the industry. Look up the Bureau of Labor Statistics or transportation statistics, or simply ask people questions online. But make sure you do something today to move forward in your career and in your life. And I know you'll get there sooner than you think. Well, safe flying out there. We'll talk to you next episode.